Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Mavs Happy Hour. It's a little after 5 o'clock. A lot of you are probably still at work. I technically am too, but I said to heck with it. Also, I finally got my dog to stop terrorizing the house, and now she is sitting on me, and I figured we would talk some Mavs. If you missed our CBA show the other night, Scott over at Mavs Moneyball wrote up a big part of, what we talked about in terms of the various things that would happen if Jalen Brunson were involved in a sign and trade. We also had the Spotify Live where he talked and answered questions for a while. That was a lot of fun. We've not had a ton of stuff over at Mavs Moneyball, just because honestly I'm tired. And then our parent company is about to go on strike, which makes things a little weird for us contractors, but that's that. All right. So, feel free to come up here and let's talk about whatever anybody's feeling like talk about. So coming up first is my dude, Grayson. What's going on, man?
Hey, Kirk. I was checking out the CBA Mavs piece about JB, and a lot of great info there, but I kind of feel like, am I the only person that wants them to just keep Brunson around? Just retain him? I mean, I know like a lot of people want to see a sign and trade, and I wouldn't be like totally against that, but he took a huge leap this year, and I think not extending him during the regular season was a huge mistake. And
huge mistake. I'm still curious, like the order of events with that in season. We've heard, I think now 3 different stories. Tim McMahon has said a couple of things on record, and things seem to have changed to where, for anybody who doesn't remember, the Mavericks say that they didn't offer the extension to Brunson, which would have been relatively cheap. It was like 4 years and like $13 million a season, something like that, because they wanted to have flexibility heading into the trade deadline. Earlier in the season, McMahon had reported that the Mavericks didn't offer it to him kind of out of respect for the fact that he would turn it down. And so there's just no point. And then Brunson's dad said that, it's going to be really expensive and that they would have accepted it. I don't really care at this point. It's been, that whole contract situation was mismanaged by Donnie Nelson years ago by letting him by letting this contract be unrestricted. But that's a different story for a different day. I agree with you. I'm kind of settling on a relatively boring offseason, and that's fine. We had a good regular season. You don't get to the Western Conference Finals, then decide to mix everything up. I know a lot of people are worried about the bird rights trap because you're just going to have a really expensive team. Like the Mavericks their salary might be like $180 million for basically the same group of guys. Once Brunson gets tacked on and Luka starts making $36 million, but that's just the way it goes. The Mavericks have with Donnie Nelson, like Nelson and Cuban didn't do a good job managing anything after they drafted Luka. And so you end up paying for it in one way or another. Your margin for error is thin, But the Mavericks are a good basketball team. So it's like if they rolled out a lot of the same dudes and maybe got like a different center so we didn't have to watch Dwight Powell, I think I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, me too. I feel like they could easily upgrade at the center position and get, a glass cleaner, a rim protector without sacrificing Brunson. And one piece of that article that I thought was fascinating that I hadn't really considered or heard much about was the fact that if we do trade Brunson, his salary is only worth $10 million in a trade because there's like 120% increase or something like that.
See, that's what, like, I edited the piece. I've been on a podcast with Scott, and so, I'm a database manager. I deal with numbers all day long. Like, some of this stuff is still like, I'm just like, huh? And in my brain, I've just sort of accepted that it is complicated.
Yeah, I feel like it exponentially complicates the whole thing because there's not a lot of players. If let's say we give him 20 a year, half of that's 10, and we decide to sign and trade him. There's not a whole lot of star players in the NBA that are making $10 million a year. So, you could probably tack on like the Bertans contract or something like that, but it just makes it so much more complicated. I just hope that they ship out a few pieces and just upgrade at the center position. And that's really all I'm hoping for this offseason.
Yeah. Well, I think having marginal expectations is the best way to approach it. Now, we don't really know what the Mavericks' philosophy is on drafting. There's still a lot of interesting things to look ahead to. But free agency, Nico, when he went on, I think he went on, what's the Eagle, whatever the fan, he went on the with Skin and Ben Rogers.
The Eagle, the Fan, I don't know, one of those.
Whichever one of them. He went on one of them, and the expectation setting was very we got the underlying theme was like making any changes is difficult, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I really am.
Yeah, there's not a lot of teams that are exactly lining up to trade us a solid rim protector. That's why I think we should go and offer Dwight Powell to Indiana. Or it's Indiana, right? The one that they have Rick, because I know Rick loves that dude so much. So anyway, all right, I'll shut up now. Also, last thing I'll say, not my money. So if they go into the luxury tax, I don't care.
Yeah, me either. All right, talk soon.
Appreciate it.
Okay, just to make this fun, we have a different Grayson. Hi, Grayson.
Hey, Kirk, can you hear me?
Welcome. What's up?
Hey, I have a quick question that I wanted to get your opinion on. So, as you probably are well aware of, the original trade exception that we had from the Harrison Barnes deal never got used, and now we have the Josh Richardson trade exception. I know he doesn't fit in the rim protector and like massive rebound upgrade role, but Richaun Holmes would fit into the trade exception, and I'm having, I guess, like a tough time finding pieces that teams would be willing to let go for.
Yeah, there's not many.
Because it's pretty much a bunch of rookie scale guys and then a bunch of not that great players, and then you get like Kobe White maybe as well, and then you just have to pay him. So would you be willing to part with 26 for Richaun Holmes? Is that a little too rich for your blood? Or do you think we just kind of go the classic Mavs route and just waste another trade exception?
Trade exceptions are like, this is kind of why Scott is writing this stuff, because there are elements of the way these things get packaged to us as fans that, years and years ago, there was, my buddy Mike Fisher did this with like the dust chip and all that stuff. And what ends up happening is, because we talk about something being possible, over time, we all kind of collectively convince ourselves that something is likely. And trade exceptions rarely get used comparative to how often they get created. So I like, this one always felt more difficult to do. So I that would kind of be my, like, I really wouldn't want to give up pick 26. The Mavericks need young, inexpensive assets, but at the same time, the argument then is, well, Kirk, it's pick 26. Like, what are you getting with pick 26? And I understand that one too. I'd probably be fine with both, because Holmes is sort of the perfect guy for the short roll with Luka, at least on offense, because
that little push shot he has is absolutely butter.
It's murderous. And that's the shot that teams end up sort of – because, like, think about how many times that teams were doubling Luka and Powell would have the ball there kind of at, like, the 15-foot area. And Powell actually did a really good job moving the ball. But it's just like the ability to score out of that and not just pass is pretty it would be pretty incredible.
Also, I had another thing on the Rashawn Holmes. I'm not like tied to him, but I just think
he's just a guy. I understand.
He's a cheap player, and they got Sabonis, and they lost a lot of minutes for him with Sabonis. But the big thing I was kind of waiting on is that he had a domestic violence issue, and that was 100% resolved. And then he ended up getting custody of the kid. So I feel like if you're getting the custody of the kid that you were said to abuse, you probably didn't do anything. So I guess now that that's clarified, I have a lot more interest in potentially going after him because, I mean, I don't think I need to explain that you don't really want a bad character guy on the team. Like that's not exactly a huge, bold statement there, but it was something I was kind of waiting on to see how it resolved before I really kind of threw my eggs in the Rashawn Holmes basket again.
I get that.
It is what it is.
I get that for sure.
All right, Kirk. Thank you, man. I'll hop off and sure. I'll let someone else come on. It's been a while since I spoke, but been listening. Love the content, so keep it up.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I have been slacking this week on my normal kind of content output because day job is crushing me, and honestly, I just kind of wanted to watch some TV and basketball, so we'll see. Matt Phillips, what's up, buddy? How are you doing?
I'm good. I was just going to say that I'm glad that he went a different way with that because I was not aware of the Rashawn Holmes domestic violence thing. And when he first started to say that, I thought he was going to say he fit well here because of that.
Yeah, it was kind of a dark story.
So going on from that, Rashawn Holmes is not good, guys. Just FYI. Like, I think people think he's better defensively than he is, but he's worse defensively than Dwight Powell. Like he is not a good defender at all. He's anchored the worst defense in the history of the NBA, the like fifth worst defense in the history of the NBA. And then last season when they didn't play him as much, they moved up to like just the regular fifth worst defense in the league that year. Like he is absolutely horrendous defensively. I know people think he's good, but he's just not. If we're going to go that route, I'm all for getting a center if the situation calls for it. I've actually gone to a dark place in that I really think Rudy Gobert may end up being the best option just because the Mavs don't have assets for anybody more than him other than hopefully just giving back salary.
But yeah, that's why I just don't like. That's why I agree with Grayson number one, to where it's like I sort of don't think they do anything because the thing that I briefly tweeted back and forth with Lauren Gunn the other day about this. If the Mavs make a big move, it is the last big move. You're gambling that is the move that works and that you are happy because otherwise you're basically writing yourself. Like if any big move they make, if it doesn't work, Luka Doncic is out of here. I'm just sorry. We got to say that shit out loud.
I mean, yes and no. Like I see that to a certain extent, but Gobert would look fantastic here. Like, I mean, as the rim roller and everything, he'd average like 20 and 15 here. And I think that like the Levine thing, I was super high on Levine for a while because the offensive fit for Levine and Luka, which one, this is ignoring the ridiculous, like what tiny percentage chance there is to get him, but the offensive fit's great. But Luka Doncic and Zach LaVine backcourt is never winning a title. Like that's among the worst defensive.
Wow, well, you're fired immediately.
I love LaVine. The offensive fit's amazing, but when Luka is the better defender of your backcourt, that's really not the answer. And I just, if you're going to go all in, like a front court of Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Rudy Gobert would make a lot more sense as far as making up for Luka and Jalen Brunson's defensive issues than having Reggie Bullock, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Maxi Kleber trying to make up for Luka and Levine. Like it's just, I don't know. It's a weird spot because I'm super happy for the season they had, but I'm also a little pensive about where they go from here because I don't really want them to turn into the Damian Lillard Portland Trailblazers that take a Western Conference Finals appearance and then just get stuck there because, hey, we can't let anything go. But I really don't see a lot for them to do other than if like, say, Utah is just married to the idea of getting rid of Gobert or something like that. And so other than that, if they can't do any of that, my last thing is I would like to see them try to deal their first-round pick this year for their first-round pick next year in order to try to get rid of the Stipien restrictions if somebody demands a trade?
I'd have to have Scott Wright on this because I don't know if it actually does that. It's really challenging. He was talking about this the other night. I cannot remember what his final answer was, whether it actually fulfills like making sure that you're not violating the Stepien rule. But that's
my understanding of it, because I've looked it up, is my understanding is as long as it is exactly the same thing to where they get their pick back, like they couldn't trade for like the Lakers first round pick next year, or the Lakers don't have them, but they couldn't trade for random team Y's first round pick next year and then say that they're Stepien clear. But my understanding is if they traded the exact rights to their pick back, that it would clear the Stepien rules. And if they do that, then like I mentioned this, I talked to X privately about this a little bit, but the Mavs can't really outbid anyone in an even game. So the only thing I want them to do is to at least get enough assets that if they get into a rigged game where someone really wants to come here, that they can at least win that. Like you can't win a fair game, then try to at least be able to win a rigged one is really the only thing I've got.
Okay. Well, I mean,
I'm going to go back to play frisbee with my dog.
All right. Have a good day. If anybody else wants to come up, please do, because this is just sort of one of these more interesting things for me. Because if you get down to it, this was what the concern has always been. This team gets very expensive very quickly, and like the expensive is neither here nor there. What comes with being expensive is a lack of flexibility. And then when you owe the draft picks, it finds itself challenging. So it's like the different things that we're all kind of casting out in the universe, the Gobert one that Matt just said. Like, number one, I agree with who is it in here? Someone just said that Tim Patrick says it's like, they wouldn't take what we would offer. I think that's true. So it's like, it's not like you want to send out one of the wings and Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith, who helped make the defense great, because it's like you're just changing problems. And team building is difficult. Like there's just no real way around some of that, because you have I will probably just repeat this all summer long. Like once you do the hard part of getting the super duper star, your margin for error becomes increasingly thin with each passing year. It just is the nature of it. And when the Porzingis thing, I didn't like the deal at the time. I was on record for it. And I understand why they did it, but it's one of those things where it's like they move the cart so far ahead of the horse because they're trying to pair superstars together. And when something like that doesn't work, which they admitted it, and then they traded everything, and then we went to the Western Conference Finals anyways. It's why I'm just sort of settling on the fact that I largely think this team will be back as is, and then the Mavericks will figure out what to do next. Is kind of where my head is. Okay, coming up next, we got Nick. Hey, Nick, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
All of them the same setup.
Can you hear me, Kirk?
I can. What's going on?
Hey, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Nick,
I was
hear you.
driving, so I don't know if you can hear me, but if
That's
not,
right.
Feel free to kick me off.
Yes, we can. You can't hear us, though, is the problem. Yep. Top-notch audio. That's okay. Anyways, Leo, what's going on, buddy?
Hi. I knew you were asking for ideas for content last week, and I was wondering, have you thought about doing a piece with both the Atlanta Hawks and with the Memphis Grizzlies, seeing as both of them kind of mirror either before or are now kind of where we're at? The Memphis Grizzlies are a team that, though are in the same position as us, have a much higher ceiling to get to, seeing as they have more talent and more picks, but also have so much more farther to go in the playoffs and have expectations now set upon them. And the Atlanta Hawks being where we were at last year, where they have just hit the conference finals. They're paying their guys, don't have much to do in free agency, but have had a really bad slip, and seeing what their notes are on how to handle as a fan base expectations going into the new season.
Well, the Grizzlies are less fun to talk about because they just make me mad because they've done all the things that I wish Dallas would have done. But the Hawks are kind of a comp point that I think is much fun, that is much more interesting to kind of look at, because the Hawks are very much a disease of more team, where I remember Trae Young gave a quote like really early in the season about how it's like, this is boring. the regular season, and then they technically didn't make the playoffs. Or, I mean, did they? I can't remember. The Hawks are terrible though. They were terrible for way too long. Yeah, they're a playing team. What's wrong with me? But it was just the fan side of this is a part of the question that I like, because one of the things that not to like dad out and tell people how to fan, but you just sort of noticed this year. We're like, on social media, at least, elements of our fan base were absolutely crazy. I understand why. Doncic drives you to be insane for your team, but it's the expectations of everything can really weigh down what's supposed to be fun about this. And the simple likelihood is that next year the Mavericks won't get back to the Western Conference Finals. They won't finish as a top 4 team in the league. Not because they aren't capable of it, but because winning is hard. And that's just sort of where my head is at the moment. Let's see.
And one last thing. As far as whenever we do set expectations, as you as a creator and us as fans, do you think with the team that has Luka Doncic, that has shown that slowly ramps up throughout the season, should we maybe set our expectations by like halfway through the season, after Christmas, or around the trade deadline?
God, that's a fun question, because so much of what the Mavericks did this year is they started out so bad that they didn't really have anywhere else to go but up. You kind of have like a baseline with Luka, but then COVID and all the weird stuff from December. 2019, 2020 was kind of a mirror where the Mavericks started off, I think, like 16-5. And then after a certain point, they just played 500 basketball because everybody started to get hurt. Oh, man. There's not much we can do about it, but so much of this is going to be dictated on where Luka is mentally. The Trae Young thing that I said about like not taking the regular season seriously, when Luka has to play 70 plus games next year for the Mavericks to be like a top 3 seed. And almost everything is Luka's the wellspring for almost everything else. So if he comes into camp looking great, if he feels good, wants to move it along, then the Mavericks could really do something. If they do what they did this last year, which was play 500 basketball for the first 35 games and then play like win like 75% of their games down the stretch, that's not really something you can expect, because the Mavericks, they didn't get lucky. They actually had kind of a hard schedule second half of the year, but it's just basketball's complicated, and you got to control what the elements you can control as a team. And a lot of that starts with, players being in shape and buying into the system and coaches figuring out things that work and then actually using them, which is something Rick Carlisle never did. Drove me crazy. Okay, we're going to try Marcellus. Hey, how are you?
Can you hear me?
I can. Welcome.
Kirk, how you doing, man?
I'm all right. What's going on?
Not much. Hey, I appreciate you inviting me on, long-time listener. This is my first time actually coming up here to speak with you. I've seen you actually a couple of times out. I think at that game that you ended up going to last year or this past season, I saw you there. But I'm sure you've answered this question a million times, and I am a prisoner of the moment. But I'm just curious as to who you would like to see drafted with our 26th pick.
Ooh, I haven't answered this a million times because the only time I was ever really, really versed in draft stuff was 2018, because I saw the first game of Dennis Smith's rookie season, and I was like, well, this is going to be a tough one for us, because that team was very bad. And so I got really invested in Luka very early on, though that just ended up being an amazing draft class. Right now, I'm kind of still mentally waffling on what position I want them to draft for. There's a strong argument to be made that drafting a center that can play 12 minutes a game like Sarge used to do back in the heyday of post-championship Mavericks, there's like Walker Kessler, and then there's the guy from France, and there's just a number of guys that look like, like a pick and roll scheme, you could play them. But then big men are just the least valuable of the 3 position groupings and the most readily available kind of in the marketplace. And if you were to group them by like guards, wings, and bigs. So maybe that's not really a good use of draft capital. So then that comes back to, do you want to take a big swing on a wing at 26 that will fall to 26 for a reason? Guys that have either red flags or aren't good at particular things, it's that's sort of where I think at the end, I hated when they drafted Josh Green as a project. So it'd be extremely hypocritical of me to like lean in and say, I think they need to draft another wing project. So I'm sort of torn at the moment. Is there anybody that you have like looked into so far?
Not really, man. I'm not much of a draft guy myself, but I'm going to be honest with you. My Mavs information consumption usually consists of either you or Locked On Mavs. Oh my God!
Well, then you're screwed because we're all idiots.
Right. So, not idiots, not at all, man. Y'all are excellent at what you do, but I think I would go with the wing, similar to what you were saying. I think that draft capital right now, or just the big man is kind of going away in the league. I think that wings and guards are going to be more valuable going forward. But I did have some interest in I know that they mentioned Wendell Moore this morning on their podcast, and looked up a little bit of highlights with him, and I was fairly interested in him, but I don't really have any would you be opposed to them trading away this pick?
I would not be pleased. The thing that has interested me, that I have no idea if this is real, but trading down, like the Magic have a couple of 30s second rounders, I think, and they also have like a bajillion young players. So, are there enough guys that sort of fall in this gray zone that, you'd want to take two of them? Now, the Mavericks don't even have two draft slots or two roster spots because they have so many people filled with guys that shouldn't be on the team. But that's a different problem for if they were to do something like this. But that's kind of where I am. I love youth. I love on basketball teams because this is my age and also probably rose-colored glasses, but the 2003 season with Josh Howard and Marquise Daniels giving a really good Mavericks team, 2003-04, giving a really good Mavericks team minutes was so important. Just it mattered. And I loved that. And I would love to see something like that again. Okay, Josh, my buddy Josh says, I love youth, says the man who slanders the youngest player on the team repeatedly. That's because Josh Green is not good at basketball. They drafted an athlete. He is not good at basketball. People tell me, it's like, give me a basketball skill that he aids in the team with besides running around like a chicken with his head cut off. He's not a good defender. He's not a good three-point shooter. He is a good passer. Josh Green point minutes. I hope they send him to Vegas and we get to see Josh Green point guard. That'd be a riot.
Well, and here's my thing. I know that trading down is not of interest to me either, but I know that the Locked On guys were saying that Wendell Moore could fall into that 30 or within the 30, so it may work out in our favor. But as I say that, they also mentioned that he does have a comparison to Josh Green, and
wouldn't that be funny? Just get two Josh Greens.
Looking for, but he seems like a more promising playmaker, and if he can hold up that shot, it seems like he could transfer to the NBA. I don't know, man. He just seems like a playmaker that we might need. He could be that seventh guy or eighth guy off the bench that we need in the playoffs. Maybe not in year one, but a lot quicker development than we've seen.
Sure. Well, the other thing about the minutes and stuff is, like, we saw the Mavs play like 6.5 guys in the playoffs. If they come back next year and Josh Green is still a member of the Mavericks, and if they use their draft pick, they have to play these guys. They have to. Josh Green still didn't play enough minutes. I think he stinks, but you can't play 10.5 minutes a game. You have to play like 16 minutes and actually get shot attempts up. I see all these weird things where people are like, oh, well, he can take the Dorian Finney-Smith route. Someone please go look. Dorian Finney-Smith shot 300 three-pointers his third season. Do we think Josh Green is doing that? No. But I would like it if they did. I would like it if he did, because you've got to find out what you have. I still tend to agree with and it's funny because his name is also Josh. My buddy Josh in the chat here, who's like, it's like we got to give him a chance. It's like I do understand why people feel that way. It's just every time they give him a chance, he doesn't do anything. So
well, I definitely think that he took a lot. He had quite a few more attempts this year, and it seemed like he was getting that confidence and getting that shot back towards the end of the season. But as we got into the playoffs, it kind of just disappeared again. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a stepping stone in the progress of it. So I appreciate you taking the time, Kirk. So
it's great. That was a great question. Talk soon.
Awesome.
Hope you come back. All right. See what else we got here. So we had more questions as the room's moved along. Tyron, what's happening? Tyron, are you there? Very good avatar.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah. What's going on?
Not much. How you doing?
I am all right.
All right, cool. Yeah, I got a couple questions, and I just jumped in here not too long ago. I hope you haven't already touched on them. Anyways, I'm not too well versed with the whole off-season trading contracts and all that.
Oh, it's a disaster. I run a website, and I still don't know anything about it. That's all right.
But I was just wondering, why would you keep people like Josh Green, Trey Burke, Sterling Brown, and all this kind of stuff, and you're flirting with the luxury tax this season? What's the point?
Well, they're like, if they sign Brunson, they go into the luxury tax. They're like $4 or $5 million under. Like anything they do, they're in the luxury tax. So we should just assume that. Josh Green, you keep around because he's young. Those other guys, you eject directly into space and say thank you for your time and move along. And I don't care if Cuban has to eat the money. You go sign different players. Like you have to have some backbench guys that click. And Frank Ntilikina was like the closest thing the Mavericks had. And Frank was terrible for a significant part of the season.
Yeah, he was.
And he was the only one. Like, it was real bad. You just have like a whole bunch of, I don't want to call them like wasted roster spots. I've done that a lot. It's not fair. But it's like roster spots that aren't contributing.
Right. And that's what I was wondering too, because I see a lot of guys that could fill those roles for not as much money, because we have a bunch of bad contracts I'd like to get off of.
Yeah. They just need to cut them is what they need to do. Like, they
Exactly.
needed to cut Trey Burke and sign Goran Dragic, and they didn't. And something like that I expect will actually happen. Like 98-year-old Goran will be a Maverick next year. I don't know why. So.
Yeah. And see, I thought I was missing something, because that isn't something that's often discussed when it comes to Maverick summers. But anyway, I know I've heard somebody talking about the draft upcoming. I really hope that they go get Jalen Williams.
Which
if you guys
one?
haven't,
Isn't there two?
the guy from Arkansas. Is it Arkansas?
Okay, so the kind of power forward guy who plays really hard defense.
He looks like a Super Saiyan Jalen Brunson.
But tall? I guess he does kind of look like him now that you're saying that.
Same name and everything, right?
Yeah, well, it's like the dome. There's okay.
But yeah, if you guys haven't checked him out, I highly encourage you to check him out. I personally think that he'd be an awesome fit for the Mavs. He's a high IQ guy, awesome passer, and I think he led the SEC in charges, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did. Yeah, I saw some of the charges.
Yeah, and he plays with incredible energy, and that would be awesome, because our big men aren't the smartest in the world. Anyway, I'm gonna let y'all get to it.
Thank you.
It was good talking to you, Kirk.
Me too. Appreciate you coming up.
All right.
All right. Who else we got here? We got Manny. Hey, Manny. What's going on? Top-notch avatar pick as well. If Luka getting kicked in the nuts.
Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up, Kirk?
Just a nice little Friday here.
Okay, nice. I was just here to kind of speak about the draft. I know, a lot of people are kind of like interested in that area. Like, I want to give you a name that I think some people should have an eye on. That's a total sleeper. Well, not a total sleeper, but Gabriele Procida from Italy. Have you heard of that name before, Kirk?
I have not. International guy, like the closest thing I've heard of international guys is our man from Hustle, Bo, what's his name? Which everyone should watch Hustle, by the way. But no, tell me more.
Okay, this guy, he's 6'7", right? And he's like a shooting guard, small forward wing. He's extremely talented to me, and he's playing like, in the Euro League. He's playing with grown men already, kind of like how Luka did it. Of course, he's not playing on the level that Luka did, but he's still playing alongside, grown men. So, as far as like physical contact goes, I think Procida should be pretty good in the NBA. But when I was watching him, he kind of reminded me, this is going to sound probably crazy, and I'm not saying he's going to be as good as him, but like Ginobili a little. He doesn't have the playmaking ability, but like his IQ is really good. He has sneaky athleticism. Like he can go up for posters sometimes. Probably not in the NBA, but I don't know. This guy is just really, really good to me. So I think like Mavs fan, or just anyone interested in the draft.
Somebody in the chat, find a link about him, because I currently have a dog sitting on me and I can't reach my computer. That's fascinating. All right.
Yeah, he's a really good player. And then my other two, as someone mentioned before, Wendell Moore. I see him as like a kind of nice 3-and-D player in the league, or EJ Liddell as well. I like from Ohio State. I think he could be like a versatile wing type player.
So EJ Liddell's draft stock took a hit when he listed his favorite Marvel movies, and his favorite one of all time was Ant-Man 2. I have questions. I will need further explanation of all that. No, but he's an interesting player for sure.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That Marvel pick is terrible in my opinion.
It was the funniest thing. Where I was like, how does this happen?
I know, right? But to me, he's like a Jeff Green type player to me. I think he could be like a solid wing. But that's all I wanted to say. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing good with your new dog as well. Hope, catching some sleep.
She is tough. Like it is. I'd forgotten puppy stage stuff. Like it's rough, but she'll be great one day. She's sleeping next to me now, but for like 30 minutes before the show, she was just like attacking my feet. Like, what is happening?
That's annoying right there.
All right, man. Well, you have a good day. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you very much, Kirk.
Yep. So coming up in a second here, I got a few more people, but I need to plug Hustle. I'm now like a Juancho Hernan Gomez fan, where the movie was so well put together that it convinced me that Hernan Gomez is a defensive player. He is not. For anybody that has ever watched the game, it was just a lot of fun. Anthony Edwards is incandescent. I mean, he should be like the next Marvel supervillain. He was like, man, I love this movie. If you don't have anything to do, I know there's finals game night. If you don't have anything to do tomorrow night, it's a great use of your time. And my man Steven in the chat called it Punch Dunk Love. Yes, outstanding, by the way. All right, coming up next is Jacob. Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, Kirk. Hope you're doing all right.
I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome. So I guess over the past, day or two, I've kind of become, I don't know if enamored is the right word, but interested in maybe trading with Indiana. I feel like that's the team that if we were to make a deal, I feel like it would work out pretty well for us, because I'm not going to pretend to know Indiana, the Pacers situation completely, but I'd have to imagine that they're going to rebuild, and probably the only untouchable on their roster is Tyrese Halliburton. And so I was kind of maybe convincing myself that TJ Warren might be a buy low risk here, or a low buy risk here.
I certainly think he is. He's with the injury stuff, has to be, right?
Right. So I don't think that's a bad idea to maybe I don't know how much
he's a free
worth,
agent,
but
he's a free agent, so he'll be somebody that the Mavs probably consider for free agent stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I don't think doing like maybe a sign and trade to get off a bad contract or whatever would be the worst idea. And then I'm sure the pick that we give him probably be heavily protected. But, if we did keep him, and then that would force, I would think, Reggie Bullock to the bench. I mean, I don't think that's that bad of idea, and then you also get like maybe Hartenstein or maybe Mo Bamba, and then so I think the worst thing that we could do is doing nothing over the offseason.
Sure. Well, I mean, they're going to do I think they have their mid-level exception.
Okay.
They have some like there's definitely some options. It's just most of us, I think, are focused on figuring out a way to get the guy because like they have so many guaranteed contracts. They give like what are they doing? We talked about this last show. They gave Marquise Chris a guarantee for next year. Why? What for? Are we a charity or a basketball program?
Don't forget the Trey Burke opt-in.
Oh, the Trey. I told somebody about this. I remember arguing, and I went and found the tweets. I'm above this now. I'm not this petty anymore. But I remember arguing with some guy while I was standing in line in Best Buy, and I was like on my phone. My wife was mad at me, and this guy being like, "Well, the front office knows what they're doing," and I'm like, "The fuck they do." I still remember. Gosh, what a thing.
Hello, that is. Yeah, come on now. He's not a true Mavs fan. You're not a true Mavs fan if you haven't gone through the grind of the off season over the years.
Well, the Mavericks. The one thing they're terrible at the off seasons of the past 10 years, but they're really good at telling you how good they are at off seasons. So it's like I get it if you're kind of a every now and again fan. There's a lot of sports to consume out there. Like if Mark Cuban tells you they had a great off season, like who are you going to believe? Mark Cuban or some asshole named Kirk? Unfortunately, the answer is Mark Cuban.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can always complain to him on Twitter, though. He's like the most online owner.
I did actually. I sent him an email yesterday because I was like, "Hey, why don't you guys ever publicize the draft workout people? Because like the Lakers do that, the Charlotte Hornets do it, and it's just like it's free buzz and allows us to get excited over pointless stuff. But since nothing means anything, why not? Like why not?" And he responded back he said, "You'll have to ask Nico," which I will probably try to. But I wish they talked about that stuff because how much fun, like we read into everything as is instead of reading into like the Jalen Brunson war of 2022. I would much rather talk about like Colloquo or some of these other people that like might come in for a workout. Like that'd be much more fun than this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'd have to agree. So I get the whole thing for me coming up here was Indiana talk, and so I just kind of.
I'm curious. Back. No, you're definitely not alone there. Mark Stein doesn't think that the Mavs are particularly interested in Turner, but that sort of stuff could change. Stein came on our show right at the playoffs and said he didn't think any Mavericks assistant coaches would be going anywhere this season, and Kokoskov left, and we got what's the other guy's name leaving? Yeah, he's leaving soon too, or not leaving, but he's interviewing for the Jazz job. So
yeah, I just saw that Charlotte filled their opening, so that's one less. I think it's just the Hornets and the Jazz looking for coaches, isn't it now? The Lakers filled it too, so
I think so.
Hopefully they don't poach him because I think he's the one that.
I kind of think he's the head coach with the head coaching stuff. I kind of think he's the special sauce that makes the coaching staff work. So, well, thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, we'll talk soon. All right. Then last is my man Harold, who would like to talk. Let's talk about the draft prospect.
Hey, Kirk. I've been advocating for Christian Koloko, and the reason I've been advocating for him is because a lot of times, as we all know, when we're drafting around 26, there's a lot of unknowns involved, and you're just hoping to get someone that can be at least a rotational player. And the thing with Koloko that I really like is that he didn't come to the United States until he was 17 years old. Okay, and for me, that tells me that he was playing in Cameroon, where he's from, against Cameroonian players. All through the age of 17, moved to the United States because he was probably a lot better than everybody there, so he could play basketball here. He comes here his first year at Arizona, he's only playing like 8 minutes a game or something like that, and he's shooting like 35% free throws, which is horrible, obviously.
Impressive.
I think there was a lot of confusion there, a lot of fear involved, and then his second year, he's up to like 55% free throws. And last year, as a 7'1" center, as we all know, really tall players tend to not shoot free throws very well historically. As a 7'1" center, he's shooting, I believe it was 76%. So he's dramatically improved every single year. He blocked almost 3 blocks per game in 25 minutes in his last year, his junior year. His trajectory is shooting up, up, up. So we know that he's got the interior defense, which is something we obviously need. So at a minimum, he's going to be, the way I see it, at a minimum, he's going to be Willie Cauley-Stein, at a minimum. And his trajectory is up right now. We don't know how much he's going to continue to improve. I think there's a lot of confusion involved when you come to a new country. And I heard someone say that he's got concrete feet. I guess what that means is that, he wasn't moving very well on the perimeter. Again, I chalk that up to a lot of confusion, not knowing where to be, and he's simply getting better. So I really hope the Mavs get him. I don't know what your thoughts are on him.
Well, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I'm still kind of stuck on positional value, and I think that wings are still are significantly more valuable than any other position. But then I also made note of the fact of, if I crush Josh Green all the time, it's a little bit hypocritical of me to want them to draft another probable project. I mean, I think that the plus side of potentially drafting any big is being a big man on defense is actually really, really difficult in the NBA. You have a lot of responsibility. But if the Mavericks could play someone for 10 minutes a game, I see a path for a wing having 10 minutes per game, or I'm sorry, a big man having 10 to 15 minutes a game as a rookie, much more than I do a wing who, it's just Dorian and Bullock are kind of the crux of the Mavericks defensive scheme. And I see how I like this kid. I want to say plays for the G League Ignite, Marshawn Beauchamp or whatever his name is. I like what I've seen of him. But I also see him getting glued to the bench in a way that a 7'1" guy would have just a different path to playing time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I get it. I just think that with putting our draft pick on another guard or wingman, you really just don't know what you're going to get. I really think that's a crapshoot. I mean, we have no idea. There's so many available. We had our choice between Josh Green, Sadiq Bey, all these people, and we just happened to pick, one of the few that.
Oh yeah, I mean that's where I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was thinking about this. You were talking earlier, that I just forgot. Our staff at Mavs Moneyball became very invested in Desmond Bane, early. We did kind of a consensus thing, and Bane was the guy. Bane was top 2, I think, out of where we ranked all of our picks as a 12-person staff. But this year, there's nothing like that. So the likelihood of all of us crashing off the edge is different. Plus, in hindsight, we're able to look at that 2020 draft and see that there were a ton of guys between picks, 18 where the Mavs picked, and pick 40 that were really, functional basketball players. I don't really have high standards at this point, but I don't see any moves involving the pick that make the team significantly better. And plus, if you look at these teams that are currently in the NBA Finals, their core components were drafted, and then they're accentuated with free agency. The Mavs have tried to build through free agency for 15 years, and it just, they got, I don't want to say they got lucky in 2011, but pieces came together in the right way in 2011. And the path to sustainable success starts at the draft, and that's kind of why I like it so much, even though the Mavericks haven't been very good at it.
Yeah, I agree. Desmond Bane, every time I watch him with Memphis, I'm just drooling, thinking about wishing Luka was kicking out passes to him hitting the open three-pointer.
Yeah.
Frustrating, but yep. All right, Kirk. Well, thank you for taking my call. We'll call it a call.
Great. That's great. Thanks for coming up. Talk soon.
Take care. Bye.
All right. I've been trying to get together with Josh Bowe, but he and I are having opposite schedules in the evening. So I think he and I are going to talk next week. I'm going to grab my guy, Bobby Corrala. I may try all these different guys that do draft stuff. My friend Stone Hansen, who I went on his show last week. A lot of them have basically told me that it's kind of pointless to talk until after the final deadline date, where things start to solidify on where people are more confident that picks might go in like the final 10 days. And we're just about, I don't know, what the draft's on the 24th. So I don't know. We're like a little under 2 weeks away. So probably second half of next week, there's a chance that I talk to somebody. I also want to get, I completely forgot about this. I'm going to need to message him. One of our wonderful, he's not a Mavs Moneyball correspondent, but like a couple of the Slovenian guys that are, doing stuff, getting ready for the different national team stuff that they're doing over there. There's going to be a lot that we can talk about. I'm just, between those of us who are hardcore fans, I'm just still so burnt from the end of the playoffs that I and my wife is like, why are you doing this? The season's over. But anyways, this has been fun, a lot more fun. These are always more fun than I expect them to be. Just, we started off as quiet. We've hung out for an hour. All right, guys. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and we will talk next week.